Hello, everyone, and thanks for coming. I'm Jeremy Johnson, Department Head for Computer Science here at Drexel, and I'm very fortunate to introduce our speakers. We have two people, Jerry Overton and Dr. Logan Wilt from DXC Technology, are going to talk about human-centered AI. In particular, they're going to talk about a really interesting partnership between Drexel and DXC that involved 100 students and a lot of very interesting applied AI work, which we're about to hear about. So you may go ahead, Jerry.
All right, thank you, Jeremy.
Well, let me just say one thing about people. Jerry and Logan are very interested in questions. If you could post them to the chat, then Dave will monitor that and make sure you get a response to your questions in a timely fashion. All right, thanks, Jerry.
All right, thank you. Now, I'm not sure if this happened with everyone else, but my audio cut out a little bit. So I'm going to underscore what Jeremy just said, that we really would like for this to be interactive. So if you have questions, take a minute and locate the chat window and then put your questions into the chat window. And then we have a moderator who, as questions are coming in, they'll let us know, and we'll pivot this in whatever direction you guys want. So hello, my name is Jerry Overton, and I lead the Applied AI Studio, or the Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence at DXC. And I'm here with my colleague, Logan Wilt. Logan?
Yeah, hi. I help run the day-to-day operations of the studio with Jerry. And that was a really nice introduction, Jeremy. I actually don't have a PhD or a doctorate. So, but really do appreciate the thought of it. But yeah, and I am excited to talk about what we've done with Drexel and take questions as well.
So we've formed a very interesting and unique partnership between DXC and Drexel University. We want to tell you the story of that partnership. So we want to tell you about how it was created, what it's like working within the Center of Excellence that we ended up creating, how that changed the nature of the relationship between DXC and its clients, and then some of the lasting. We want to tell you the story of this pretty unique program. Now, we'll go through, and what we really want to focus on is, we want to get across to you that this was a very cool experiment of sorts. There were a number of things that we did that were outside of what you normally see happen. And so we want to tell you the stories of what really happened at the fringes. What were the things that we did that were unlike things that we had normally seen. And we want to tell you about the impact that it ended up having on our company. Because if there's anything that you get from this, it's we want to really highlight the massive contribution that Drexel University has made to our company, and to the way that the abilities that we have for operating within the industry. Now, we want to talk about the capabilities that we've built specifically in artificial intelligence. So with that, we'll start with about how the Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence, we'll refer to it as the COE from now on. We'll start by telling you how it was created. So we've been working on this program for, well, I guess a little over 2 years now. Logan, how long has it been?
Yeah, it's about 2 years from when you and I really started. Well, it's actually probably about 2.5 years in pulling the whole program together. The participants have been in it just shy of 20 months. But of course, there was a period of stand-up before they started.
Yeah, so let's start with like the basics of the program. So in essence, we recruited 100 DXC employees. So these were people who had been working in the company anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And we recruited them into a program that we created in partnership with Drexel University. Now, the program was, you pursued a master's degree in different areas of applied AI. You also worked as a part-time employee of the company in a program where we used real work experience to develop your skills. Now we recruited internationally, We had everyone relocate to Drexel University, and we also had 5,000 square feet of space co-located in Drexel's CCI building that we outfitted specifically for this program.
Yeah, and there's a few things in that that are kind of special. So, and Jerry talking about how there's a lot of things that were just new and unknowns and experiments. So, you know, the idea was conceived. Actually, I believe Drexel approached DXC. They had this idea of doing a bigger partnership and what it would be, and we really liked that idea and wanted to go forward with it. But people didn't really know exactly what to do with it at the beginning. And in that beginning, when our executives were talking about it, knowing that this was a great opportunity, they brought Jerry into it. And Jerry's really the one who gave it the passion for AI, because that's Jerry's passion, is AI. And that's been a big part of what we do in the COE, is making things human-centered. It is about the people who create the products and use the products. And even so much as into the space itself. I mean, Jerry's talking about 5,000 square feet outfitted specifically. This was his design. You know, this is built on, you know, his experience working in collaborative environments. You know, open collaborative environments are really powerful, but they have to be built up in a way that works. And that's what we had the opportunity to do here with Drexel. They really gave us wide open runway for this, and it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it has worked out really well. So there are a number of things that were really important for us to take advantage of. And you mentioned this, so let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. First of all, the focus on artificial intelligence. Now, this was true a year and a half, 2 years ago when we first started, but it's even more true now that we're in an inflection point with artificial intelligence. We're really far down the road with the digital transformation. There's lots of data being generated, and AI is the key to growth in almost every industry. And we are at an inflection point where AI can do more than just incremental cost savings. AI can really transform a company's identity or the way it does business. It's really about innovation. And the companies that can take advantage of that. Okay, so one other public service announcement is, you know, if you aren't speaking, please go on mute. So thank you. So anyway, we were talking about the power of artificial intelligence, that we're at this inflection point that, you know, for the companies that learn how to embrace AI and innovate with it, you're looking at a new type of growth. So that was the first factor that we needed to be able to take advantage of. And we needed to be able to partner with Drexel University because of their, you know, cutting edge capabilities in, you know, the coursework and the degrees that they offer in applied artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to talk about here, when we talk about that inflection point and the fact that we go after what we call moonshots. So I love the imagery that we get with the moonshot and the history that comes with when Kennedy said, we aim to go to the moon. Because it also really fits in with the innovator's dilemma, which is something that AI always falls into. Those small incremental improvements, they aren't enough to take a business leader's eye off the urgency of the now. There's not enough of a benefit to shift that focus into something that is different and experimental. But when you go after something, when we talk about like a moonshot, something that is beyond that small improvement, that is a reach to make a change and a transformation in a company, and you can use AI. We are at that point where the data and the compute power exists at a breadth that, you know, just about any company can take advantage of it. That's when you have the opportunity to make really, really big change in a company.
Okay, so we needed the foundational education in artificial intelligence. Because, you know, that's where our future lies. That's where we wanted to do future innovation. But we needed this, we needed more than just education, right? We needed high functioning talent that were capable of building real innovations. Now, we call this industrializing AI. So this is moving past. One of the things that it might be tempting to do is compare what we're doing to, say, a lab. Now, in a lab, a lot of times your focus is just doing what's generally termed a proof of concept or a POC. And what we wanted to do was build something that went beyond that. It wasn't just like we're going to build, you know, the cool blinking screen or the talking box and then move on to something else. What we wanted to do was build the foundation of something that was going to be transformational, both for ourselves and for our clients. And in order to do that, we needed people who were able to what we call industrialize AI. So along the side here, this is the things that you go through when you are doing AI for real, rolling things out, setting up models, orchestrating, building solutions. Each one of these bars, especially in the gray here, is the typical number of man hours that a large enterprise company will spend doing this type of thing. Our goal was to produce teams capable of lowering it by this much or more. And with our partnership with Drexel University, we actually were able to produce a team of people who got us these results. Now, the reason that we were able to do this, and one of the reasons why it was so important to partner with Drexel specifically, was Drexel University has a culture of hands-on learning that's built into their program. It's not just bolted on, it's part of their culture. We needed to borrow that culture for what we were trying to do in the Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence, specifically for making sure that we got people who were capable of industrializing what they did in their time in the COE.
Yeah, that industrialization was a big part of what we did, and the same as, like you said, doing the work hands-on. So with our teams, we threw them into doing AI projects basically, well, not quite day one, but like maybe day 8. You know, we had them assigned and working on AI projects, even before they even were able to take some of the classes that would later bolster their knowledge in it. And teaching them to go through the process of industrialization. That was something that was kind of our partnership, what Jerry and I brought to this, in that, you know, we've seen a lot of AI projects not escape, you know, proof of concept. And so that industrialization and making sure it was something that could integrate back into an existing ecosystem was really important for us to have the teams learn how to do.
So that's kind of the idea, the history, setting up the Artificial Intelligence Center of Excellence, the COE. So let's talk a little bit about, let's make it a little bit more real. Let's talk about what it's like actually operating inside the COE. So what was this? What was it like? So the first thing was we had to build a group that was capable of delivering these moonshots. And again, I want to emphasize the difference between the Center of Excellence that we set up and what you would typically think of as a lab. Now, in a lab, you're running experiments, you're creating these proofs of concepts, you're hoping that something might be useful, might be practical. In the Center of Excellence, we wanted to build an organization that was practical from day one. This was all about transformation. And like Logan said, you know, we weren't launching day one, but we were launching pretty close to it, like week 1, where we're getting things out there. So the first thing that we had to do was put together a structure so that inside the Center of Excellence, we're working with clients and we're delivering these AI moonshots. Now, again, these aren't toy projects, and these were working with our live customers. We actually brought in DXC customers, and we had the students work with them directly. So there were core important things that they were working on. It was high stakes, and we really threw them into ownership of the moonshots.
Yeah, I want to hone in on this basically, well, it's not a bullet, but this fourth point where we talk about leading centaurs. You know, the concept of centaurs is that human machine partnership, and that partnership also with our clients, basically we became a bridge to partner them with the machines, and having that really close connection with the clients was quite powerful for us. It was something I had thought of, and it was really cemented in my mind, and seeing it over the course of the last 18 months or so, how beneficial it was for us to have the development teams in close contact with the clients and being able to learn from them and not be necessarily the experts in the room. They were the AI experts in the room, but they really became partners with the clients for that practical, transformational, AI. And it
That,
wasn't about the algorithm, it was about the end result.
that's right. And it wasn't also about being the smartest person in the room. So this was collaborative. I mean, we made our customer the center of the focus here. So it was, okay, we can help make you successful, but we're not running your business. So tell us, what would you like? Where would you like to go? Where is your moonshot? And so it was a really collaborative process that we had to put together. So we set up this program. We had the space, we had the people, we had the direction and the focus, and we had the support. We also now knew that we wanted to target AI moonshots, but in order to do that, we needed a set process for getting a project kicked off. From the minute that we contacted a client and we had these types of moonshots discussions to when we actually launched a team and started a project, we really needed a set process. And this is, Logan, where you came in and you really ran with this garage concept, and you really kind of set out, walk us through this process here that's taking us from after we pitch to a client and get them interested to when we actually begin one of these studio projects.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to lay out here is the speed. That 2.5 weeks is about what we needed to launch a project. And again, we're wanting to build on momentum and keep moving forward and make sure we stay outside of the innovator's dilemma. So a pitch was usually us starting with an idea with the client. So rather than going to them with a blank slate and saying, what do you want to do? We started with an idea to allow them to react to it. Rarely did we ever actually do the idea we pitched, but that's what became that first collaboration point. The studio tour, we originally did studio tours live. They, of course, switched to something virtual in the middle of the program, but the studio tour was bringing somebody into the studio, being able to meet the developers early on, all of them, so that they understood that the studio was broader than even just the smaller team that they were a part of. And then if we could orchestrate, say, a hackathon or some kind of event, we wanted to do something with them as well. The FutureCast, in some respects, was what we used instead of a requirements document. The FutureCast was a narrative form of what the world should look like once our moonshot was in production. And this was a really powerful thing for us to work with because it became our anchor point and our guiding star in our projects. And doing it as a story meant we were very much looking at the end results and not the technologies to get there. The final two, building the team and the project foundation. The team was really built off of people from a principal perspective. It wasn't about saying so-and-so had X number of years of, Python experience, but who was interested in the project and who brought the right principles. And then no project can run without foundational stuff. So we're doing a lot of things that are different, but it doesn't mean that we aren't building upon years and years of experience on how to run and manage projects. And we use many of those, principles in our day-to-day work.
Yeah, and when we created this was, I don't know, almost a year ago when we created this slide. 2.5 weeks, that's really fast for the launch of a project. But I think we're way faster than that now. Like if we initiated a project and you were to tell me, okay, it's going to be 2.5 weeks before we can get the team together, I'd be like, okay, so what's the deal? Is everybody on vacation or what? We've gotten a lot better since then.
Yeah, we can go a lot faster than 2.5 weeks. A lot of times now it's just a matter of rolling somebody off one project so that we have an elegant close to whatever they're working on, and then getting them started on another project.
So we have a process for starting the projects, but it's important that we also built in the team concept. So again, I'm going to emphasize, this wasn't just a lab, and this wasn't just an education program, although the education program was an important part of it. What we really wanted to do was create high functioning teams. And in order to do that, so a lot of data science efforts or artificial intelligence efforts will focus here. But what we wanted to do was expand it out all the way to the entire full stack. We wanted to build systems, not just models, because if you could build a system, then you could actually make a difference, make a transformation for one of our clients. So we needed these high functioning teams. Logan, you put together exactly what that team needs to be, but this is where the partnership with Drexel University was so important, and what was so unique about what Drexel brought is not only did they provide us with the degree programs to support these disciplines that we need, they actually worked with you on customizing the programs according to what it is that we needed.
Yeah, that is true. So the degree programs that our developers went through were masters in data science, computer science, software engineering, and information systems. And as we went through it, particularly like in the information systems, that was an area where it was modified because our teams were doing a lot more programming and whatnot. And so we actually worked with Drexel and got the information systems degrees into a Python class so that they can bolster their Python knowledge, because we threw them in and they were coding, but they were definitely feeling the gap in their knowledge base. Building on what you're saying, that a lot of times with data science, and we say team effort, and people over focus on the data scientists. In that, we say we've AI experts, AI professionals are what we have built, and that's absolutely true. We have AI application developers now. These are our software engineers and our computer science majors who understand how to develop applications for AI and data-driven use cases. Same as our data engineers understand what it means to efficiently clean and monitor data for our work. It is a team sport. Now, what we are showing here is for a full stack solution with a custom application sitting on top. This would be one of our biggest styles of projects that we go on. So when you see this big team here, that's because it was for a big project. So we do scale the size of our teams depending on the outcome that we're seeking on a project.
So the story up to this point, we've recruited internationally within our company into this program. We've brought everybody into Philadelphia and Drexel University. We have space allocated, and together with Drexel, we launched this program. We have given them the mission of creating cool, compassionate artificial intelligence, and doing so with clients on real projects. And now they are assembled into these types of teams. And in these teams is, this is how they operate. This is what they do on a day-to-day basis. This is how they produce the kinds of outcomes that we'll be talking about here. So let's talk a little bit about what it takes. Oh, I'm sorry, David, were you gonna chime in with something?
I was going to chime in with a quick question.
Awesome, let's do it.
kind of either one of you talk about, speak about the lack of female representation in most AI leadership teams and whether robust female representation and mentorship is part of the overall planning, including what percentage of the 100 students are female?
Oh, fantastic question. So one of the things that this program allowed us to do is to address a lot of the underrepresentation, especially in technology and in artificial intelligence. One of the things that's near and dear to my heart is so these teams that we put together, they're high functioning as teams, and we sent them out into various different innovation activities. One of the things that we did was we had them compete in hackathons. We had an all-female team compete in an AI hackathon. They placed second in the hackathon. It was just a fantastic accomplishment, but it's an example of how through this program, one of the things that we're able to do is address that underrepresentation. I don't know, Logan, what do you think? What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, so underrepresentation of women in IT is it's an industry-wide experience, and there are a lot of reasons that build up to that, and there's no one solution to it. So I hope that I've been a good mentor to the women in our program as well. I'm here, so I'm representing, I guess. What I really want to focus on with everybody here in the women in our program is just making sure they have the opportunities to participate. And that has been a big part of what we've done in the COE. Many of the women that are in our program are taking on leadership roles inside the program themselves. They are running their own projects and leading their teams. And that's been a amazing thing to be able to watch and be a part of.
Yeah, Logan, what is our male to female ratio? Do you know?
So it's still pretty low. I think we are, I should know this off the top of my head. I think we're about 10 to 15% female out of the 100. So, no, actually lower than, well, I don't know about AI as an industry. We're lower in IT as an industry. But,
yeah, I was just reading this. I was just reading this just yesterday. But for minorities, it's racial minorities, it's about 4 to 5%, and for women, it's about 5 to 8% in AI specifically.
Okay, all right, then good. Then, yeah, that's, well, not good for those numbers, but I'm good that you have that data point. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think we covered it. If there's follow up on that, please, post again, and we'll get back to this. But that's a pretty fascinating subject. Oh, one thing I did want to mention is, our team. I'm so proud of them. They did a great job. If you Google FedEx hackathon and DXC, we have a published video that tells the story of what it was that they did. So I recommend that you go out and you check that out. Okay, so.
There was a quick follow-up. Any efforts being made to rectify that? The comment is that's a depressingly low ratio. Any efforts being made to rectify that?
Well, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer for you on it. We'd have to, in order to rectify that, we'd have to run another program. We'd have to target that in another cohort. So, no, what we've been able to accomplish to this point, that's as far as we've gotten.
Yeah.
Sorry, wish we had a better answer for you on that. That's as good as we were able to do.
Yeah.
Hi guys, this is Puneet from the cohort itself. I just want to point out we have around 20 to 25% of female population, just like the number that I was going through on the list. So that's around 20 to 25%.
Well, thank you, Puneet. My numbers were wrong.
I think that's just the numbers we have pretty significant number compared to the average that the industry has.
Yeah, but the point is well taken. It's not enough. It's not where we need to be. Yeah, it might be an improvement on a pretty already dismal situation. There needs to be more done, and what we're doing about it to rectify. I can tell you what we've done so far, but what we plan to do in the future. The real answer is I really don't know. If there are recommendations, we would love to hear them, because this is something that we would really like to continue to make progress on.
So another question's come in. When CCI students accomplish good practical course capstone projects, can they present their projects to DXC Technology for commercialization?
Oh, interesting question. We don't have a forum for something like that. Now, our program is designed to connect directly with clients. So, like Logan mentioned, we start with a pitch directly to a client. So it's not like we have a project and then later on we bring it to them. They are coming to us with their problems that we're solving. But this idea of having a forum of, bringing in, say, outside innovation, and then, finding avenues to present that to the client, or maybe even incubating them, right? Finding ways to integrate that into existing projects and taking that further. That's something that would be pretty interesting to do.
Yeah, that would be. That would be. I'd recommend that for whoever asks that question is to follow up and email either Jerry or myself so that we can, talk further on it.
Yeah, because, and we're not, that's not a BS answer, because one of the things, someone approached us with something pretty similar early on in the program. Hey, can we bring in, client projects that, have half started, but, need sort of that push. We did the same thing where we started this sort of incubate the person program, where we could take something that somebody was already working on inside the company. We found ways to wrap resources around it and then take it further. I'd imagine that this would be sort of an extension to that type of thing. So please, if you are serious about it, reach out to Logan and I, and let's have a conversation on it. Okay. Any other questions that you wanted to queue up for us, David?
A recommendation more. Work on unconscious bias and do data-driven research to make implicit bias and rampant sexism against females more understood. In fact, as a female, I was turned off to AI entirely. I'm speaking for the speaker.
Yes.
Because almost 4 years ago, I needed to report my AI professor for handing out a homework assignment involving S&M sex. He quickly bounced back to teach at all girls college. Older females who don't fit the culture never bounce back.
Okay, interesting comment here. In fact, okay, so we're gonna just take some diversions and we're gonna talk about this, because one of the things that we've done is we've pivoted towards human-centric AI. And that was specifically first of all, it's something that Logan and I believed in, but it's also something that allows us to foster inclusion. A number of times what we found that turns people off about artificial intelligence is they start to assume that it's really just about number crunching or just squeezing out some sort of efficiency in the process. It's all mechanical, it's all impersonal. But when you start to add that human-centric component to it, you can start to open it up to people who normally wouldn't consider this to be part of what it is that they were interested in and what it is that they're going to do. So I'm going to skip here to some of our examples. Now we have later on a whole bunch more examples that we can go over. But Logan, can you take us through some of the examples of some of our moonshots and just talk about the human element to some of these?
Yeah, so I have a good example with the one that we have here on change the way that we bank. So this is one of our inaugural moonshots that we've been working on, and we wanted to create an AI advisor for people, essentially for people who can't afford to have their own financial advisor. What basic financial advice could an AI provide a person, something that's guiding and useful to them? And one of the things we had as kind of a point, a decision point in the program was, what is the tone that the advisor should take? Like, how heavy-handed should this advisor be in its process? And we kind of discussed the differences of between like what it's like to follow a Bob Ross painting tutorial, or have like a one of those super intense health coaches, or like do more push-ups, or happy little trees. What felt better on guiding people towards making improved financial decisions. And the team discussed it, and they all came back to like, we like the idea of a Bob Ross. We want our advisor to be softer, more collaborative with the user. And that was part of the perspective that they took, and that was the direction that they were moving in. There were still those, very technical things under the hood that they had to get there in order to, make the advisor, but they wanted to take that softer approach. And that was part of the human side of it. That was the team that made the decision in how the AI was implemented. Do you want me to keep going with other?
Yeah, let's talk about the. Can you tell the story of the healthy eating? Of how you came up with the idea of the healthy eating app.
Sure. So we have a couple of healthy eating apps, but one of the ones that the COE worked on was also a grocery app. And it was, the focus of this was to assist with menu planning. And when it came down to it, I basically sat down and said, well, what do I want? What do I want when I am trying to plan a menu? And I use myself as the perspective of that. Well, I don't want to spend all my time sifting through recipes. I want something to help me find things that me and my family are going to like, and then help me go and find those ingredients in a particular grocery store. So that was kind of the point of putting a user in the center of the application. We took a similar approach with our other healthy eating app as well. Again, it's about the user and connecting them with foods that they are going to likely want to experience. And again, recommending to them the things that they may not have tried before, but would actually be beneficial to them to try.
Okay, so really quickly, can you? Okay. I'm sorry. Really quick, can you also tell the story about the discussion that we had on the banking app? And the reason why I'm asking you to do this is because I want to really tie this back to the human element and to inclusion. So remember when we got together and we had the client in, and we were talking about the banking app and trying to put together the future cast for that. Can you tell us just a little bit briefly about what it was like being in that room?
Yeah, so that was, we did that together. We drafted the idea of our future cast, and we kind of tried to describe the user, and so, what do we think of when we think of the end user? And I guess in the sense of putting the human in it, you start thinking about, well, I even think of myself again, all else fails, put yourself in the middle of the project. And I think that's one of the big things that I try and talk about with the cohort, that you are always, you're a human. So you are always a subject matter expert on what it means to be human-centered. But one of the things we talked about is what does it mean? Where you feel on things? So for me, it was, well, I feel like I'm generally okay, but I never really know exactly if I am. And we also talked about, well, where do we want the financial advisor to come in and help us on things? So I wanted general advice. I want general advice to give me a feel that, I am on track. You came in and said, I want a financial advisor to come in and get rid of everything in my finances that are extraneous and irrelevant and I shouldn't be spending money on. Like, take over my accounts. While the other three of us in the room were like, no, I don't want the advisor to take over my accounts. But that was part of where we went, and the idea that between the four of us, there was this huge range of, what a human would want and where they would want help. And, that's how we envisioned the future cast. And, we ended up writing it up from the perspective of, a, prototype user. It was a really, really good experience, and when I say in the room, for us, it was Jerry, it was myself, it was our main agile coach who would be advising the team, and it was our client. Those were the four of us in the original room crafting that future cast.
Yeah, and so thanks for sharing those stories, Logan. The reason why I want to put you on the spot and have you share those is, we're talking about inclusion and what generally turns people off to artificial intelligence. And my experience has been when people start to think of AI as just being about piles of data, running Hadoop queries or backpropagation or whatever, when they think about, these really, dehumanizing aspects of it. But what this program has allowed us to do is ask questions like, well, how do you want to eat? Or how do you want to manage your finances? What's meaningful to you? And then we use the tools in order to get there. So this human-centered approach was a way for us to connect with people that I think normally would be turned off to artificial intelligence. So that's how I'm trying to connect what we're doing here to the questions that was being asked. But David, do you have, I think this is a fascinating topic. David, are there any more follow-up questions about this topic, diversity and inclusion, that we could answer, while we have some time here?
Nothing more about diversity and inclusion right now. There are a couple of questions a little bit back on what you spoke about earlier. Moonshots, about your moonshots. Are there any available for the viewers to try? And also, going back to your stories, is there a little bit more technical detail, such as architecture of the system, modules of the system, what data were used, what AI techniques were used, etc.? So going back.
Okay, well, let's. Okay, great question. I'm gonna skip around a little bit. So we'll talk about moonshots. Now, of course, since we've done these projects with clients, there's a lot that we won't be able to share, right? So these are conversations where clients will come in, they'll tell us about their problems, and we're really incubating them on their behalf. So it's not like, there's a lot of stuff that we can release in many of these cases, but in some of the cases, we actually worked on open source projects. So not only can we share with you what we've done, we can recruit you into coming in and being part of the open source community. So this is a list of some of the projects that we worked on. I'm going to put you on the spot again, Logan. Hopefully you can do like a spot check, kind of take us through some of the more interesting ones. Tell us a little bit about the technology involved, and then tell us a little bit about like links or where they can go to learn more.
Yeah, so for the ones that we can talk about a little bit. So first is talking about the NTA. That was a hackathon we did with them. We wanted to create what we called a smart queue, basically a way to reward people for spreading themselves out when they came to train stations, so that they were just basically helping foster physical distancing in the train stations. So the method we used, I don't ever say it right, algorithmic mechanistic design. I say it wrong every time, but that was an idea that I know you've worked on. You brought it to the team and said, I want to explain this to you. And really, it's a fantastic counterpoint to a problem that you see in systems theory, which is, the tragedy of the commons, that when people are left to their own devices and you're working with a common good, so in this case, the train station and what time you want to leave, it actually benefits an individual to serve just themselves rather than the community. But the method of algorithmic mechanism design basically turns that on the head, and it benefits the individual to then actually think about the community. And so that was a really, really neat example. And that's one where we have videos and we have some blog posts on it, so people can go and see it.
Go out to YouTube and search for, I think, MTA and DXC, and you should be able to start with a video, and then there should be links to presentation material and such, so you can learn about what we did with like game theory, algorithmic mechanism design, and AI on that.
Yep. So
question about building the team. How was the recruiting process, and any challenges to share?
Yeah, a lot of the recruiting was done by one of our colleagues. I guess I can mention her here, Rosanna Grant. She did a really great job of recruiting. I know she formed pretty close personal relationships with much of the cohort. So I can't speak personally to a lot of the challenges of recruiting, because she was really on the ground and she did most of the work. But from my vantage point, some of the things that I really saw her spend a lot of time on was, first of all, awareness. Now you'd think of us, DXC is just one single company, but with 130,000 people, it's really difficult to get the word out to everyone that, there's this program, what the program is, and, how to qualify for it. So there was just this massive informational, really campaign that had to happen. So that was a big challenge, is just getting people aware. Second thing is, this is another reason why the partnership with Drexel University was just so unique and so great. Drexel University actually went on recruiting trips with folks from DXC. So Rosanna Grant partnered with folks from Drexel University, and together they went on these international recruiting trips to go out to different locations that we recruited from, to let people know what's going on, to let them know what the process is. And then there was the selection process, right? There were lots and lots of applications. And so, it was a really big challenge going through each of the applications, and then, scaling it down, picking the people that we wanted in the program. And then the last really big challenge was just the logistics of just getting everybody into the program, getting all the paperwork done, getting people moved, getting housing arranged, and just the logistics of getting 100 people from all over the globe here physically and ready to go. So those are a number of the challenges. Like I said, I'm not going to even pretend like I was the one doing that. I kind of had the view from the cheap seats on that. It was Rosanna did a great job on that, but from my vantage point, I could see that those were the major stressors for her. Okay, so we were in the middle of talking about some of the innovation, because people were asking, okay, what were some of the moonshots? Logan, you want to do maybe 2 more examples of some of key moonshots?
Yeah, so the next one I was going to talk about is another one that's publicly out there, so people can go and see resources on it, and that's the one with the Peter Scott Morgan Foundation. This this is definitely one that's really near and dear to Jerry's heart, because Peter is a friend and has become a friend of Jerry's. Dr. Peter Scott Morgan is a world-renowned roboticist and physicist who has motor neuron disease. And so we have been working over the past 18 months with the program to build what we call the cyborg universe. This is an AR head-up interface that uses eye tracking to allow him to continue to engage with the world around him. And so we have, this is more of a program than a project at this point. We have multiple facets that are in development. The first program, the first project that we did was actually an AI art program that allowed, basically allowed Peter to give it a theme, and it would then draw pictures from his life and build an image around that theme using all the pictures of his life. And this really allowed him to continue to create original pieces and works of art when it was becoming too difficult for him to do that physically. One of the really big things we're working on for him now is a self-driving wheelchair. So this integrates with a HoloLens and allows him to use eye gaze to determine where he wants his wheelchair to drive. And we're working on, I think right now we're working on object avoidance. So we can do straight lines, we can make it go in straight lines, but it doesn't do object avoidance on its own. But that's the next big piece that we're working to put into that solution. The next one, I guess, for something that is also something that people can engage with and look at, would be our AI starter.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, tell people about the starter.
Yeah, so the AI starter is it's an open source package that we provide, and you can get it on pip. Can you put in the chat, Jerry, the GitHub for it? And
I'm gonna ask, because if I do that, you guys will be able to see what I'm doing because I'm sharing my screen. So
you're
I
right.
know, Puneet, that you're on.
Yes.
So if there's anyone from the cohort, please grab a link to our AI starter and put it in the chat window. And then, it's open source, so you're invited to become part of the community. Yeah.
So the AI starter is really, it's focused on that industrialization of AI. So when you go into Python, so Python is a handy language for us. It's a full stack language with lots of well-maintained libraries for machine learning and AI. So it's very useful. But in that sense, there's lots of libraries for machine learning and AI. And someone getting started, what do you use? What do you use to do industrialized AI? And so what we've done with the starter is pick the ones that we feel are really, really useful to doing AI and put them in a single package. So they're all available there. And we've modified some of them so that, of course, they work together, and we've got the data types and things so that the data works when you're getting started with AI. But that's something we maintain, and anybody can go and use it.
Yeah. So David, I know we're running up on time, and I want to address some of the other questions because I can see items starting to pop in. Are there a couple questions that maybe we can get to in the last few minutes?
No, we're caught up on the questions. The last couple things were just the GitHub repository. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Feel free to raise your hand or shout it out or put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Well, if we're caught up on the questions, I'm gonna go back and grab what we were doing with the storyline and sort of move it forward very quickly. So we had talked about how we do projects. A lot of the stuff that you saw, the examples that Logan gave, we have a set delivery method for it. We have standardized technologies that we try to use for it. Now, a lot of times we veer from that, but there's a discipline associated with it. And you've seen some of the Moonshot examples. We have used this as a way to form new relationships with our clients. So this program, it wasn't for, everyone in our client base, but for the ones that wanted to do real innovative stuff, this partnership with Drexel has allowed us to show up for our clients in a brand new way. And that's a really big deal for us. So much so that we had to come up with, an underlying philosophy that drove that to make sure that, we didn't really veer from it. There is a process that we have for figuring out who the right clients are, because again, this is more of an innovative and exploratory thing. It's not the right thing for everyone. So if you're thinking about starting a project like this or a program like this, one of the things that we really advise is, be selective about who you let in and who you collaborate with, because it really requires that partnership. In fact, we even have like a rubric that we came up with for, how to get to the right client. One of the last things I want to talk about is, well, what does it look like? What's the path look like? So when Logan described a lot of our projects, they start here in the COE, and they grow all the way through to maturity. We expect these to be more than just proofs of concepts. These are the seeds of longer term engagement. These are things that make a difference both to DXC and to our clients. Logan, you want to comment just a little bit really quickly on our long-term vision for these projects?
Yeah, so the long-term vision on these projects is about change with the clients. So, we start with our seeds, we build on them, but the idea is that they can go further. They also open up more doors to do more innovation with the clients. So one of the things we also have done, there's a couple projects in there. We had our DAO, we've had, we talked about the FedEx thing. Those were technologies we actually did a combination of AI and blockchain. So these are opportunities for us to actually build into that ecosystem of emerging technologies. It's not all about AI, even if it is our focus. When we think about this from a company perspective, we're wanting to change our relationships with our clients so that we are that forethought partner with them. And that's how we progress our projects.
All right, cool. Well, I know we're coming to the end, so I would like to talk about some of the things that came out of this. In fact, really quickly, one of the things was we actually ended up creating a new type of innovation agreement. The projects that we were doing and the ways that we collaborated with clients were so innovative coming out of what we've done in partnership with Drexel, is that we inside DXC have created a new form of agreement. We call it our innovation agreement for engaging clients that want to do this type of thing. It's also allowed us to organize within DXC things that were normally disparate. So this center of excellence has become like what you think of as a center of excellence. So people who were normally working on just pockets of innovation inside DXC, through this program now we're able to bring them together and to really focus some of the talent that a lot of times I didn't even know we had on our client problems. Then the last thing I want to leave you with here is some of the things that we're hoping for the future of the Center of Excellence. We would like to take what we've built and create an organization inside the company that will allow us not only to do cool stuff, but to drive an innovation culture within DXC so that we, long after we're done with the program, the benefits of what we've gotten with this culture, the innovation culture, building the teams, collaborating with clients, that this spreads throughout DXC. And for a large portion of our work, this is how we do things, and this is where our growth comes from. Logan, any last thoughts about the perspectives on the future, or some of the things that were that stood out to you most about the program?
you know, there were so many amazing things in this program, and I am so excited to see where things are going to go for the future. You know, all of our participants are set to graduate in June, you know, and this has been, you know, an amazing journey with them, you know, building the teams, running these projects, getting to know our other clients, you know, that have been in the studio so much better. Some of the ones who have come to be able to visit us at the studio, and, you know, I feel of them, you know, kind of like friends. I mean, it's still a professional relationship, but, you know, it's more friendly than a standard relationship. And that's such a breath of fresh air in working in, you know, large organizations when, you know, you get to experience that difference.
Yeah, it's more like a community, and I feel it too. So
Yeah.
It's been amazing, an amazing journey. It couldn't have been possible without the fantastic partnership that we've gotten from Drexel University. So, you know, we'd like to thank you guys for being there, being a partner for us, and of course, giving Logan and I a chance to do this talk. So thank you very much. I do realize that we've gone over on time, so thanks for your patience.
Thank you both. Do you have, is it okay, would you like to share your email for questions? Is that part of in your slides? Do you want to put that in the chat?
Of course. Do you mind putting our contact information in the chat window?
Not at all.
Yep, absolutely. That's fine.
Any final questions?
All right, if not, I'd really like to thank our speakers, Jerry and Logan, for a very interesting talk and very interesting project.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. Again, thanks to the audience for all the questions. I am putting both Jerry and Logan's emails in the chat right now if you have any questions. So I want to thank everyone for coming today and the great talk. If you want to go back and view this, it will be posted online within the next 2 days. Jerry and Logan, I'll send you a copy of I'll send you a link to the talk so you can go and view that. And with that, I want to thank everyone and have a good rest of the day.
All right. Thank you. Bye.